So if the engine's working correctly, it should be making vacuum as the piston is coming down. And that vacuum is fairly simple to measure with a simple vacuum gauge. But it is critical where you hook it up. You need to be below the throttle plate. The throttle plate inside the throttle body or the carburetor, that throttle plate will open. And when it does, the vacuum that's coming from down below will be different than when the throttle plate is closed. It's going to be stronger on the bottom side, which will give you a stronger vacuum reading. When that throttle plate opens, then your vacuum would change. It's just like when you have your vacuum gauge on and you do a snap throttle, and you snap that throttle wide open, your vacuum will go to 0, because suddenly you're reading vacuum that's on the top side of the throttle plate. So for this test, to test the vacuum on a piston, you actually want to be below the throttle plate. Cranking vacuum is never going to be the same reading as when the engine is running. So what we're going to do here is show cranking vacuum. I've disabled the engine so that it won't start, and you can see what the pistons will generate as far as vacuum goes when it's cranking. So in diagnostics, we're always trying to find the simplest thing first, or rule out the most serious problem. And in a no-start situation, you're always wondering, well, is it not getting spark? Is it not getting fuel? Does it not have compression? This is a very quick way to tell you whether or not you need to be looking at a mechanical issue or ignition issue. If your engine vacuum is actually reading 0 while it's cranking, that's not a conclusive enough test to say that the engine is bad. But it is enough to tell you that you don't need to waste time at this point on looking after fuel and spark yet. You should have a vacuum reading while cranking. If you don't, we're suspecting something's not right in the engine. So we need to go to a more conclusive test, which would be a compression test. Now we're hooked up directly to engine vacuum below the throttle plate. See, we're reading about 18 inches of mercury, which is a correct reading. But the most important thing is to watch that needle, if it is steady. If that needle is bouncing back and forth, either just a little bit or more wildly, then that's an indication that you're not getting good sealing inside the engine and you're not getting a good vacuum reading. You need to be below the throttle plate so that when you do a snap throttle, you can see your vacuum drop to 0. Drop to 0 and then recover. But the entire time it should be steady. So now we're actually going to create a mechanical problem and show you what an unsteady vacuum looks like. Now you can see by our needle that it's bouncing, and it's also reading only probably about 12 pounds of pressure, and it's fluctuating. Now why is it fluctuating? If you follow this down, you'll see we're hooked up to the same place on the intake, but what we've done is actually loosen this lifter and we've put a spacer in there. So that valve is not able to close because of the space we put in it. So this is showing you that you have an internal mechanical problem and it's being reflected by a wobbly needle on a vacuum gauge. Now you can see what we've done. We were on the intake valve. We switched our spacer to the exhaust valve and you can see our needle. We're still bouncing around. If you have an exhaust or an intake valve that's not closing correctly, it's going to affect vacuum and it'll show up on a vacuum gauge.